Do you ever wonder what it really means to be human? That beyond the routines, the masks, and the daily hustle, there's a raw, messy, and beautiful reality unfolding right before our eyes. I'm Rick Watson, and this is Humaning, a podcast where I have honest conversations with everyday humans, and together we peel back the layers, dive into the chaos, and celebrate the magic of just being human. As you listen, notice how different parts of your story may appear in the story of others as we all just do our best to live, to feel, and to connect. Welcome to Humaning. This should be fine. Cam Pearce.
Hello.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks.
We're off and running.
Here we are. Who'd have thunk it?
Yeah, it's cool. Stoked.
Mm.
We're going to do a proper check-in, but how the hell are you?
I'm effing good.
I'm fucking good.
Yeah.
You're allowed to swear on this podcast.
Yeah. It's funny, hey, I had this conscious thought of not to swear. I don't know why. Maybe Mum might hear it.
Yeah.
Not that she's never heard me swear.
Hey, Cam's mum.
I'm good. I'm feeling really good. What can I say? It feels like things are moving in the right direction. I think I shared that last night in Circle. A lot of excitement, anticipation, nervousness, a little bit of anxiety around all that, but just freedom is probably the key word that's standing up right in this moment.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, you got some shit going down, haven't you? You got some exciting stuff happening.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm super keen to
Shit going up.
Yeah.
Not going down.
So let's do an official check-in, because I do like, and it's funny, I had someone reach out during the week and they're like, "Oh, I'm not really digging the check-ins."
Yeah, right.
And they're like, "I don't really care how other people are feeling." And I think the reason I do it is because I want to normalise the process of just checking in and seeing how you are, as in like the whole physical, mental, emotional, like the holistic side of it.
Yeah.
I want to make that a normal thing, that it's not a freaky thing to be like, "Oh yeah, I'm feeling this, my body's this, mentally." So that's why we do it. So how are you physically, mentally, emotionally? What's going on? What's it like to be Cam
Well,
right now?
just first to speak to that idea of the check-in.
Yeah.
And I get, potentially for people that it might be new to them and not done it, and being that I've sat in Circle for a number of years now, and that's the norm for me now.
Yeah.
It's never easy. It's never an easy process. I always have anxiety around it. But I feel so much better for doing it. So,
Yeah.
To that person, get into it. It's fucking sick.
And I think just on that, it's like, because to me, it's the antidote of the, yeah, I'm good. How are you? Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
How are you really?
Yeah, the default.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just that factual response of just like.
And it's something that I never did. Like, who of us did growing up actually stop to feel and,
No.
actually...
Well, probably someone, but.
To get an understanding of how you actually feel in this moment. And, why, when I actually stop and go, "Oh, fuck, I actually do feel really nervous."
Yeah.
So, yeah, I digress. To my check-in, Cam checking in. In this moment, feeling super nervous. It's somatically hitting me in the chest is where it's all stemming from. And it was really interesting driving here, trying to get out of my head and let go of all the, any expectation. So yeah, there's definitely physically feeling really nervous, and I feel that in my chest.
Mm-hmm.
Feeling some tension in my neck and my shoulders, which is where I generally hold stress.
Yep.
mentally feeling a little bit unbalanced today, and I think I attribute that to a late night and an early start, and I haven't really been in the ocean for over a week, so I feel that I need that. Where I'm at
Emotionally?
that's emotionally feeling really light and happy.
Cool.
Yeah. And just, I think I shared last night, I just feel like my heart is really open at the moment, which is very new to me, and I'm loving it. I'm loving it, Jerry. Is that all?
Yeah.
Emotionally, physical? Yeah.
I don't normally have questions after a check-in, but I will today. What do you think is behind the nerves? Like that somatic in your chest, driving here, like what's
There's
behind
definitely wanting to show up. There's part of me, the inner critic, that wants to perform and do well, especially with the potential of playing guitar at the end of this.
The teaser has been put out there.
May or may not happen.
This could be the first live musical performance on the podcast.
Yeah. I mean, the big piece for me, and has been for most of my life and most of my journey in personal development, is around finding my voice.
Yep.
And confidence in that. And so I guess that's a big piece. I mean, here I am talking into a microphone.
About finding your voice.
Which is then going to be sent across the internets to whoever might listen to it. So yeah, it's fucking scary.
Cool. Awesome.
How's that? I've sworn about 4 times.
Yeah.
Sworn? Is that a word? Sworn.
Thanks, man. That's good. My check-in is I physically feel really light, and there's a little bit of 2 coffee Rick happening in my heart. I'm trying so hard to cut that down, but today is a big day of it's got 4 coaching sessions and potty, so I'm up and about on the coffee stakes. I'm not sure that's a wise choice, but I'm not known for wise choices. So yeah, physically feel a little bit racy. Mentally feel really good. It's Tuesday morning. We just had circle last night. Always wake up on a Tuesday just feeling mentally clear, and so just noticing that knock-on effect from circle is alive today. And emotionally, what's alive? There's nothing really big jumping out. So there's some peace, there's some calm, there's a little bit of excitement. I'm super stoked to have you here, and we've been friends for ages, and we've done work together and all sorts of stuff, and just to be here and actually have a conversation like this is really fucking exciting for me. So that's probably the core thing that's there. That's me.
Thanks, man.
Good in.
Thanks, bro. So,
the stock question I ask everyone: how the hell do we know each other?
How do we know each other?
What's your story of that?
Started in Circle on the Gold Coast.
Mm-hmm.
I remember you coming. I think I had already been in Circle for a little while, in that particular circle.
Yep.
For a little while, and then you came. I just remember my biggest memory of that is just seeing a man who was really ready to change and work on himself, and in a pretty hard place, and I had a lot of resonance with your situation.
Yep.
But you were in the thick of it.
I think my official status was fucking hot mess.
Yeah, you were definitely in the thick of it. But the great thing, and that I took so much inspiration from you, was how you just fucking, you just went for it. Like, you were doing all the stuff and you're into it, working hard on healing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and really the rate that you were like I've sat in a circle with men that for a number of years, and you know this. I mean, everyone's got their journey, right? There's no judgment here, but I guess my point being the rate that you were moving through this stuff and acknowledging things and opening up, getting raw, getting real. It was really inspiring.
Thanks, man.
And I guess I attribute that to your. I mean, now that I know you deeper and for a lot longer, you know, I can see how your thirst for learning and growth drove that.
Yeah.
And for me it was like, holy fuck, this man who, and I could really resonate with you, and I felt a real big heart underneath all that as well, and underneath like the drive and you know the efforting. Yeah. There was just a guy with a huge heart that I could really relate to, and I felt really safe, even though I hardly knew. I felt really safe to be in circle with you.
Yeah, same. I think we kind of we clicked pretty early on in the piece. And it's funny, I think back to those times, and I've always, like, learning is a really big thing for me, and I am attracted to the growth part of things, but I think at that point I'd kind of just come to the realization that a lot of the situations I was in were like, I was coming to the realization of the role that I had played in a lot of those situations.
100%.
And I was like, fuck, this cannot continue for the rest of my life. I can't keep looping through this stuff. I don't want to keep looping through this stuff. So I think that was the big driving force. It was like, there's a heavy vibe of like self-responsibility of like, I need to like get a handle on some of these patterns and what's happening in order to even think about it being different. Yeah.
No, I definitely I can attribute to that from an outsider's perspective. Yeah, 100%. That was one of the biggest things that was inspiring for me. You know, it's a cliche, but doing the work on ourselves to then do the work for others.
Yeah. So what was that, about 4 years ago, 3 years ago?
Not good with time, is it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it'd be about that.
We're in that circle for about 2.5 years, and then we've been cracking along with ours for...
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah. So what was going on for you back then? Why did you join that circle? What was happening in your life?
So that particular circle was an extension of the first circle that I was going to say circle work. I forget there's no camera here. You couldn't see my little action.
Bogan references.
Yeah, Bogan. So long story short, my introduction to men's group was MKP on the Gold Coast.
Yep.
And Lindsay was part of that group.
Yep. Lindsay Beister.
Yep. Who then started the circle that we then sat in.
So what if we go back a little bit then, like to MKP? What motivated you? What was happening for you to want to step into that?
Yeah. So I'd separated from my from my wife, and I was looking for connection. One thing, I was feeling pretty lonely and isolated, and I'm not sure whether this was something in my awareness initially, but as I started going to circle regularly, I realised that I was looking for positive male modelling.
Right.
Not having a great experience of that growing up. My dad left home when I was very young. So I wanted to learn how to be a man. if I just be as blunt as that.
Yeah, what's it like to say that?
Yeah, I mean, that was a realisation a while ago, so it feels pretty normal to say that now.
Yeah, yep.
But that's what it was. It was, I needed male connection. I needed to feel safe with males. I needed to feel that I was a man, that I was worthy of being a man, and able to stand tall amongst men.
Yep.
Yep.
Because am I hearing that wasn't modelled to you in early days with your old man?
No.
Yep.
No. And mainly just because he wasn't there, in my experience.
Yep.
I'm mindful that my brothers may hear this, and that is what it is. But I'm sure their experience is very different. But for me, Dad left when I was 4, and my brothers were there for me, but they were my brothers. They weren't my father.
Yep.
And we would only see Dad once a year at Christmas time, and it wasn't much of a connection for me.
Yep. Was there any, I'll use the word surrogate male role models that popped up?
As in stepdads?
Stepdads or uncles or anyone that really offered anything?
Probably my brothers were the biggest. My oldest brother Mark, who lived interstate with my dad initially, and then by himself, and then my other brother who lived with me, and my mum. They would be the most immediate male role modelling.
Yep.
My mum had partners.
Yeah.
So stepdads, which I use that word very loosely because they weren't very positive role models. They were quite toxic, actually.
Yeah.
Clearly still some resentment around all that towards them and how they treated my mum. So there's that. So to answer your question, not a lot.
Yep.
Yeah. And I'll be straight up. I was brought up predominantly by my mum, which, there's a lot of gifts in that.
Yeah.
I'm definitely a feeler. I'm a big feeler, and that's kind of how I roll. And I'm sure she played a big part in that.
Yeah.
But, there's also, I guess, there's a shadow side to that as well, or not a shadow side, but, there's certain parts that have obviously shaped who I am.
So what are some of the experience of the being a feeler, being sensitive? Because I resonate with that. I've kind of been dubbed as being overly sensitive throughout my time, my life with various people. What's been some of the... Because on one side, that's a fucking superpower.
Fuck yeah.
And then what's some of the other experiences of that for you?
Definitely a lot of internal struggle around, I guess this conditioned perception of what's normal, or what, how a man or a boy even should be.
Yep. So not meeting cultural ideals kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even, struggling with, I'll just bring my mic a bit closer.
Yep.
Cool. Struggling with emotions. I think just because I feel it so deeply.
Yeah.
But it's only been, the further I got into doing this work that I actually acknowledged this feeler in me and starting to allow it and love it.
Yeah.
So, there was probably, I'm sure there was a lot of unconscious struggle because I was a feeler and not realizing that it's okay.
So a little bit of critic popped up.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. You should be this, and why am I like this, or
Yep.
what's wrong with me, all that kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then how did that show up in relationship? Like you said, you got married.
Yep.
How did that sensitive part show up, or not show up? Like, what was the role of that?
Well, I guess it led for me. Number one, it led for me to look for the comfort and potentially enter into relationship from a place of need.
Yep.
As opposed to, a healthier,
Like want.
Yeah. So there's that. But then once in relationship, definitely not having a voice. Being quite submissive.
Yep.
In relationship.
Not wanting to rock the boat.
Yeah.
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 I'm vibing that. I'm feeling the same.
Yeah.
There's definitely some parallels with our existence with that.
But it was that thing, and not just in intimate relationship, but I do recall, as I reflect, I do recall even growing up as a kid, I would be quite, I would just be super cruisy by default. I'll just kind of go along.
Yep, go with the flow.
Yeah. But I would let things build and build and build to the point where I would just explode.
Yep.
And that was, as a kid it wasn't so bad, but then as I got older and in relationship, it definitely started to be quite toxic.
Yeah, it has a pretty big knock-on effect, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, I'm not sure where I was going to go with that.
That's right.
Mm.
Yeah, I've definitely got my version of that. Like, we were talking last night in Circle. I think we were partners, weren't we? And just talking about, my old man was kind of didn't really communicate he was a great communicator, but not about hard things. So he kind of just pushed those down, and then every now and again there'd be the big blow up. So that was kind of really similar to what I saw and what, was modelled to me. And I was like, oh, that's how you do conflict. It's just like, keep it on the down low so we don't upset people. And then when shit gets too wild, it just pops out and you apologise and move on. It's like, that was kind of the, my experience of that.
Yeah.
And that the hard part that I found was like taking that pattern into a relationship, into my, intimate relationships, and then being like, what's wrong? This is just normal. This is,
Yeah.
Isn't this what everyone does?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then realising like, oh, fuck, there's just different ways to do this.
My version of that in relationship was feeling pretty powerless within a dynamic where I didn't have the balls basically to stand up for myself.
Yep.
So I would just let it permeate, let it build up, let the layers go and top until the point where I would blow up.
Yep.
But then that would be received with the same back at me.
Yep.
So it would just be complete chaos.
Yep.
And I can be pretty fucking stubborn as well. So, but in that relationship particularly, I would back down and submit.
Yep.
And that would just then, that would just make it worse. That would just build more resentment and build more...
From your behalf? Yeah.
So there was no way to... I acknowledge and accept and let go of the fact in that relationship particularly, there was no space for communication So therefore there was no way of actually resolving anything.
Yeah.
It was kind of got to the point where I was really having to let go of that, and try not to take it personally, and just just acknowledge that I can't communicate with this person in any way.
Yep.
Because of my stuff and because of her stuff.
Yep.
It was a mutual thing. So that was the breaking point.
Yeah.
Clearly, I'm talking about my ex-wife.
Yeah.
And I acknowledge my hesitancy. Is that a word?
Yeah, it's pretty close.
Yeah. I'm hesitant to say that because I'm also mindful I don't want to speak out of turn or hurt anyone's feelings or.
Yeah, there's a respect there, so it's makes sense.
But the reality is, there was shit on both sides of the fence that just meant that could never work, and I finally, it finally got bad enough that pushed me to the point where I had to actually stand up for myself and step away and leave. So, I acknowledge the strength in that.
Yeah.
Because it was the little scared little boy, the safety, the need for safety, the need for comfort that held me in that very toxic situation. And I attribute that and a lot of decisions in my life, a lot of my decisions were fear-based.
Yep.
And I attribute a lot of that to not, as a child, not being but not having the opportunity to actually step towards the fears,
have that experience.
Yeah, step into the uncomfortable and build my resilience and build my confidence and, steps in becoming a man, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's a super interesting topic for me because I think it's, especially as a parent, it's like, where do I support, where do I guide, where do I influence and validate, and where do I not? Where do I let them find their feet? Where do I let them have their mistakes? And I think it's a really interesting discussion because we have our experience of I'm hearing in you that you would have preferred to have more freedom to make mistakes, go through the fear, experience that stuff, and potentially that could have changed things down the track. But you've also got kids, so there's potentially a gift in it of this was my experience, and I also want to make sure that, and I'm putting words in your mouth, but just smack me if I'm wrong, but that my experience influences the impact that I want to have on my kids as a general thing.
100%. And in that itself, there's been the journey of finding getting the pendulum in the middle where I definitely overcompensated a lot. My dad wasn't there for me, so I overcompensated in that respect and maybe gave too much of myself to my kids.
Gave a little bit of yourself away. Even.
Yeah. But now I'm learning to bring that back to a healthier, place where I can be there for my kids, but also not, be there for myself as well.
Yeah, not abandon yourself.
Yeah. And have some healthy boundaries around that. So,
yeah.
And I mean, stepping back to that idea of my childhood and my upbringing with my mother being quite overprotective, if it's guidance, right? It's like you said, it's that idea of where do we push a little bit, where do we just allow, how do we guide? Whereas I felt, I'll be completely straight up, my mum did everything for me.
Yep.
And the knock-on of that was I found and find it hard to do things for myself,
Yep.
you know, to the point where it's scary.
Yep.
You know, it's I'm getting better and I'm growing and I'm getting stronger in myself and able to do things now. But there was times where I was scared to just pick the phone up.
Mm.
Like my dad would call, I don't know, once every couple of weeks or something to talk to us all. And it was the running joke. It's like, I would not talk. He'd be like, "How you going? Good. What's happening? Not much." And that was it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I didn't feel safe with this man because I didn't know him.
Yeah.
But I also felt overly protected by my mum to a point where my self-worth and confidence was just like, I was a fearful boy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that played out in my life for most of my life, like for a lot of my life.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it drove a lot of my decisions. It drove me to be in a relationship that, you know, there was definitely red flags that if I was stronger, I would have stepped out of.
Yep.
It drove me to a career path that, I mean, I got some, don't get me wrong, there's some great things that I've learnt and achieved out of my career path, but it was never truly heartfelt or heart-directed.
Yep.
I don't feel. It was more fear-based, and that was fear around money, and that also speaks to my in my upbringing and my environment around scarcity mentality, and you know, I mean, fuck, my mum did it hard. She had to raise 3 boys by herself.
Yeah.
And for a big part of that, my dad didn't support. So it's understandable that she had that mentality, but that, you know, being the youngest boy, and that she also kind of held on to me in a way that, you know, that I feel that has even somatically been passed down to me.
Yep.
You know.
And then you were talking about pendulum swings, course correction, like, and I heard you say that there was like an overcorrection of like just wanting to be there for your kids. What's the course correction look like? Like, what does the middle point of the pendulum look like for you now?
It's a daily practice.
Yeah.
Daily. But yeah, it's ultimately it's having the confidence in myself and worthiness in myself. You know, to know that I'm worthy to give myself that time, or do what I need to do for me, so that I can ultimately show up for them and myself. Yeah. I'm not sure I answered the question.
No, and I think there's actually 2 parts to this, because there's the part around like your dad leaving early and you wanting to, and your experience of that, and then you wanting to really be there for your kids, because it's not something that you had from a male role model. So like, yep, cool. That there's that part. But there's also that part around like your mum potentially not giving you the space you needed to like have your own experiences. I'm curious around like how that's impacted how you raise your kids, and how much freedom, how much independence, how much that side of things do you have with them?
Yeah, I feel like my approach now is that I am actively there for them.
Yep.
And whether that be, you know, I do everything that I can, even I make a big effort to be in their life and be there for them and what they need. But I'm also at a point now where I'm allowing them to find their way a bit.
Yeah.
You know, and one of the things, an example is my youngest daughter, Leela, who's 8. You know, I now even reframe how I speak to her about things, when she's probably been my biggest lesson in this, because she is potentially a reflection of me in a sense that she's quite needy.
Yep.
She wants a lot of my attention. And that's shown me that I need to be a little bit, have stronger boundaries around that.
Yep.
And so now when she says, you know, she wants me to do something for her or, you know, expresses some fear about doing something, I use the words, "You're very capable, you can do it."
Yep.
As opposed to, and I'm, you know, I've definitely said it in the past before I had that awareness, you know, something like, "Don't be a baby. You're big enough. You're old enough."
Yeah.
You know, that's just
It's like a shaming version.
yeah,
of it.
absolutely. Whereas I feel you're capable.
It's way different energy.
It's what I needed, right? That's
Yeah.
that was the encouragement that I needed, as opposed to, "I'll just do it for you," or, you know, or shaming.
Is there a part of you that still needs to hear that?
Oh, hell yeah.
I am capable.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I am learning to do that myself,
Yeah.
which is the key to this for me, or key to where I am at this, I would say, beginning of a journey forward out of some very old patterning. I need to remind myself, but it's more than just an affirmation, right?
Yeah.
It's more than just words. It has to be somatic. I have to feel it.
Yep.
And as I do push myself to do more of these fearful things, which to a lot of other people might not even be fearful,
Yep.
but I acknowledge that that's my experience.
Yeah.
It's fucking scary sometimes to do this thing. But the more I do those things and push myself to do it, then I get, and we spoke about this last night, I get the experience and then the confirmation that, holy fuck, I can do it.
Yeah.
You know,
Evidence.
and I am capable.
Yeah.
So I've been, you know, jokingly running around saying, "Capable Cam, I'm, you know, I can fucking do this.
I got this.
Yeah. And that's, you know, that's part of holding that little boy in me who's still scared.
Yep.
You know, the fear is still there, but I am realizing that the fear is always going to be there, but it's a flag to push me forward.
Yeah, it's an opportunity, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an opportunity for me to make a choice. Like, okay, the fear is there, but what direction do I want to take? Do I want to let the fear drive that decision?
Yeah.
And take me back to that shitty place where I was so unhappy?
A bit I know I can do over and over again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or what does my heart actually want me to do here?
Yeah.
And trust that I'm capable of doing that, and then when I do that, like I said, on the other side of that, it's like, holy fuck, this feels so good, and it worked.
Yeah.
You know.
And what I hear in that is like this. It's the theme of like, am I driven by fear or am I driven by love?
Yeah.
So it's like the fear versus love scenario, and it sounds like the fear being the driver has been a really strong pattern in your life. And let's talk about your current situation, because I think that gives good frame of reference to what following your heart, what being motivated by the love of something as opposed to the fear of avoiding something. So what's happened in the last month? Well, it's not, it's just the last month, but it's also been, 15 years in the making.
Oh,
so.
Yeah. It feels like the last few months have been probably, up to this point, probably one of the biggest shifts in my life.
Yeah.
Personally, and what's happened? Well, where do I start?
Well, I'll give you a reference. I'll give you a reference point. Like you mentioned before about jumping into an industry that was a fear-based decision, a financial decision, and that was branding, graphic design, which you're very good at. And at the same time, in your life, music's been a huge part of your life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me just start with that. The role that music's played.
Music has always been my biggest love. It's when I play music, that's when I feel the most myself.
Yep.
And, you know, it was that point where the fear was was just stronger, and it made me head down a road of, I wanted to be an artist. I didn't want to be a graphic designer.
Yep.
I had an experience of that after, at the end of high school. I did some work experience in a design studio, and I felt pretty strongly that it wasn't for me. I tried to apply for animation at university, and they knocked me back.
Yep.
And again, because I didn't have the resilience to go, oh, here's a challenge for me to actually build my portfolio and follow that path.
Yep.
I decided to just default back to, I'll just do graphic design because that's a safe option.
Yep.
So I did that, and although reasonably successful in that, and definitely had some positives, I was never fulfilled.
Yeah, that was the word I was thinking.
I didn't really feel happy, you know. My heart wasn't in it, ultimately. So yeah, recently I hit a point, I hit a breaking point where it was kind of like what I spoke to before in my marriage. It was like, I can't do this anymore.
Yep.
It's actually killing me. I was waking up every morning with dread. And
what a fucked emotion to wake up to.
And I was like, I cannot do this anymore. And it was getting toxic for me and everyone around me. It was getting toxic for myself and my business partner, who's my brother, my oldest brother. So that was fucked, because it's like, well, this is affecting our relationship as brothers. And I just couldn't show up how the business needed me to. And I was like, this is fucked. I can't do it anymore. And so I jumped with a very small parachute.
I could even say one of those like wingsuits. It's not even a parachute.
Yeah.
It's just like, I've got enough to like.
I feel like that would be more fun. So yeah, I'm just like, fuck this. I'm out. So scary. Still is at times. But I just have to follow my heart's path. And that's music.
Yeah.
So if that means in the short term, you know, doing whatever I have to do, you know, working a part-time job a couple of days a week to try and to prop me up while I'm doing that.
Yep.
That feels so more rewarding because I'm working towards something that I love.
You're in alignment. Yeah.
Mm.
And it's like the energy, like the little voice in your head when you're in alignment is so different to when you're like fighting against it. And that's why I'm excited to have you on today, because literally last Thursday was your last working day in the business, wasn't it?
It was a doozy.
Yeah.
Yeah. That those last 2 days of work in the business, the fear showed up big time.
And what was the dialogue with that? Like, what was?
That was, holy fuck, what have I done? Not ready for this, not qualified, not good enough.
Yep.
How am I going to support myself and my family? And then, you know, the fear-based solutions started coming, like, oh, maybe I could just do I could do contract graphic design.
Yep.
I could do it, but I'm like, fuck.
The little tinges of safety were still in there.
Yeah. And I think that's when I reached out to you and I said, I don't want to go backwards.
Yep.
Like, I feel in my heart so deeply that I need to keep, wherever this takes me, I need to keep moving forward. And I need support. I need support in this. So I reached out to you and we had a chat, and And that in itself is huge for me too. That's
Yeah.
a big learning and a big growth point, because in the past I would have just tried to go it alone, you know.
Yeah.
Because I didn't feel worthy to reach out. I didn't feel appreciated or loved or supported.
Yeah. It's interesting because Joe and I were talking about that on the last podcast, and it's like there's even some tinges of shame asking for support, because there's like, oh, I should have got this sorted myself. You know, there's a little bit of that that can be in there.
And part of the story that was playing out was because for the last couple of months I've been coming to the circle, you know, banging on about how fucking great this is and I'm making these big changes and blah, blah, blah. But I was still in that safety net of earning a wage.
Yeah.
I was still, you know.
You hadn't quite jumped off the cliff with the Red Bull suit on yet.
Yeah. So part of it not wanting to reach out or having fear to do that was being an imposter, you know.
Yeah.
Like I've been banging on about how fucking great I am and how awesome this is going forwards and following my heart and look at me, you know. And then I've got to, you know, crawl back in with my tail between my legs and go help, you know. But fuck, I'm glad I did.
Yeah. Because my experience of that, we chatted on the Friday, and I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but you still woke up with dread, but we realised it wasn't the old dread. It wasn't the fear-based dread of like, I'm stuck in this fucking world. It was like the dread of the new experience. And it also made complete sense that was the emotional response to the circumstance. It's like, I've just jumped off the cliff with my Red Bull suit. It's fucking pretty normal to have a little bit of dread and be like, what is going to happen here?
Yeah.
And I think what we spoke about that day was around that fear versus love thing. It was like, oh, this is the first day of me being in a work situation where I'm following my heart and I'm doing it for the love of something rather than the fear of something. And I think for me, that's what I got out of it, was like, oh no, this is seismically different to the dread that you felt 3 days earlier, or the fear and that sort of thing. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, well, the old dread was showing up to do something that was essentially killing me.
Yeah, you're turning your back on yourself.
It was draining my soul. Whereas this is a dread of, holy fuck, this is scary. But, you know, the payoff is going to be so much more.
Yeah. And I also think that it's completely normal. It's like, I think I gave you the examples of like, I've got multiple imposter jackets that get thrown on at different times, whether it's coaching or podcasting or now being a therapist and training for that. There's lots of I'm not good at this.
Yeah. I mean, that showed up even doing this podcast. I think I mentioned to you, you know, this idea of, who the fuck am I to get on a podcast and talk about stuff? I've just jumped off. I haven't achieved anything. I'm not, you know, and I want to acknowledge that I am at the fucking very beginning of this.
Yeah.
So, but like you said, it's just owning the present experience, just where I'm at, and just expressing that, and that's okay. And it's actually healthy and good.
Yeah. Because this is not about the polished finished product.
No.
It's the messy middle. You know, and we're flying downhill in a Red Bull suit right now. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. And the difference of where I am now, like when I think about the prospects and the things that I've got going on for my future, my heart, my heart opens up and I feel fucking alive, as opposed to getting up and going to the grind, you know. And I have to acknowledge that, like, and this is what kind of held me in this old pattern for a long time and staying in the business, was I had it pretty fucking good in the business too. Like, worked my own hours, got paid reasonable money, had a fair bit of freedom, it was a creative job. It wasn't like I was digging holes or something. Not that, you know, not that there's anything wrong with digging holes. And if anyone needs a hole dug,
Cam's after a day or two of work.
Couple of days of work would be good.
Hit the link in the show notes.
Yeah, absolutely. But that held me in it, because I was telling myself, I was trying to justify.
Yeah, that's the web, isn't it?
It's like, you should be grateful for this.
Yeah.
This is actually really good, and you've got it so much better than a lot of people. So just stick with it.
I love when that old chestnut comes out.
Yeah.
So common.
Yeah.
And I think I think many people, including myself, use it as a justification or a disarming mechanism of like, it's okay. Just keep going. You'll be right. And it's nearly a version of turning your back on yourself.
100% it is.
Because you're like, I'm not actually fucking listening to my heart here.
100% it is. It's Judge Dredd, I call it.
Yeah.
Judge Dredd's there talking in my ear saying, what are you whinging for? Get on with it. It's fucking...
This is life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So tell me about your music. Like, what's in the pipeline? What does it look like?
So my biggest desire is to create and perform music.
Yep.
So I'm currently working on a duo with a friend, which will be a combination of covers and originals.
Yep.
Which we're working on together. When I say covers, I don't want to be a jukebox. I'd want to reinterpret them.
Yeah, cool.
In my style,
yep.
Or our style. So that feels really good. That feels great. I'm excited about that. I want to record more of my music as I create it.
Yep.
That's probably one of my biggest loves, is actually making music.
Yep.
Last year I did a year of music production study, so I could learn how to record. So I've got some basic skills there, which I can utilise. And the other thing is I'm pushing into teaching, so teaching guitar.
Yep.
And again, the imposter showed up around all that. For years people have asked me to give them guitar lessons, and I've always had this story that I'm not qualified. Because a lot of what I do is predominantly, like I said, I'm a feeler.
I feel, yeah.
It's by feel, it's by ear. I've predominantly self-taught, apart from a few lessons here and there. So I was like, well, I'm not this theory guy. What am I going to teach people? But then that was that, the realization that I'm having. I've got a couple of students now, and the way that plays out is the focus is on play and finding your own voice, and not necessarily having to know all of the theory. I mean, theory comes out within the lessons naturally.
But it's not a one size fits all.
No, but ultimately the underlying is, the business name that I've come up with is Heart's Path. So cool. To me, that is a reminder for myself that everything I do from this point on, it has to be aligned with my heart. It has to be directed by my heart.
Yep.
And for me, that's what music is. It's from my heart. It's from within me.
Yep.
And it's what sounds good, what feels good, and what is an expression of my voice. And I know that a lot of the reason that the way that I play the way that I do is because I didn't have a voice. I was scared to use my voice. And so my guitar was my conduit to that.
Yep.
It was my way of expressing.
Yep.
There was some shadow side of that, where my guitar could be a safety blanket, particularly in social situations.
Yep.
But the light side of that is now I've got this, I think, this ability to not only communicate what's within me through music, but also communicate with other people, whether they be the listener or other musicians.
Yep.
I feel very confident to be able to just sit and play and communicate in that way.
Yeah.
So that's what I would like to bring to other people, give them the experience of, and they don't have to necessarily have any musical experience.
Yep.
They may. it's all open to whatever. But the idea that it's less about all the chords and all the scales and all the modes and all the bullshit.
Yeah.
It's more about how you feel in this moment and how would you express that through the instrument.
So fucking up for that, as opposed to the other way.
Yeah. And that may not be guitar necessarily. It could be a djembe. It could be, I've got a drum kit at home.
Yep.
Which I fucking love jumping on. I'm by no means a drummer, but it is such a powerful release to get on there and just bang the shit out of the drums for a while. So just to give people that experience and that permission to just let go and let go of all this expectation that I should be this or should be that, or I can't play music, or I don't know how to sing. Just allowing yourself to be open to the expression of music, which for me is such an innate part of us as humans.
Yeah.
And such a powerful way to feel and to express.
Yep.
And to process.
Yeah. Well said, man.
Yeah.
It's super fucking inspiring for me. Just in general, to see men follow what's meaningful for them and to follow their heart. It's super inspiring because I know you and I know backstory and I know what the roadblocks are. So it's just fucking, I'm so stoked and I'm so excited for this chapter of your life. And that's part of the reason, like, there's the guitar sitting there because, like, I want the world, my mum and my dad and Joe's dad and the people that listen to the podcast, all 17 of them. There's a few people building up
out
now.
There somewhere chewing his bone. Just
to hear that, an expression of you expressing what's alive for you right now on your guitar. Like, it's really cool. And I think it's important. We talk, like, in my work, there's, like, we're expressing our emotions through words and building awareness and all the rest of it. But that's only one way. There's so many other ways to express an experience of emotion in your body. And I think it's super important for humans to be able to have avenues to do that.
100%.
Yeah.
And it could be anything. I mean, surfing is an expression, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know what I would do without surfing. By no means am I an awesome surfer, but I fucking love it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
And when I've been out in the ocean, I might only caught 2 waves, but the feeling I get from it, you know, it's just another way of me expressing who I am.
Yeah. Yep.
Tapping into my authenticity and my truth.
Yeah. I'm still tripping a bit. Because
that could be the coffee.
Could be the coffee, but it's also like I'm thinking about people listening to this and hearing like, oh, that's okay for you, but I can't do this because of ABC. And that's been your dialogue for how long?
Forever.
Yeah.
Forever.
Yep.
Yep.
And you only get one spin at this.
Yeah.
It's like,
I'm a slow learner.
What has to happen? Because no, it's serious. It's like, I found a real meaning in life when my dad passed because it was like, all right, don't fuck around. Make the most of what this is. Do the things you want to do. And it's the same thing. It's like work through the fear and be with it and step into the life that you want to have. Because watching him pass was like the visceral reminder of our mortality. And it's like, we only get one fucking turn at this.
Yeah.
And that's the bit that really like fires me up and inspires me around hearing and witnessing your chapter. It's like, you're doing the thing. And so many of us put the excuse or the justification of, I can't do the thing because of this, this and this. Like, come and speak to Cam about the obstacles because they're all there, you know. Still.
Daily.
Yep.
And what comes up for me in that is, in what you share, what's coming up in this moment is, the other side of it is, for me, is how do I want to show up for my kids? How do I want to model? You know, I feel like I've been a hypocrite, you know.
Now we're fucking talking.
Telling them, follow your heart, do what you love, all that stuff. But then I'm not doing it myself.
Yep.
So how are they ever going to actually believe that?
Yep.
And trust that in themselves if they don't see their dad doing it?
And that's the greatest gift you can give them, is the doing of it rather than the saying of it.
Yeah. And it might all fall over, but fuck, at least I've tried, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, talk to me 6 months ago, I wouldn't be talking like that.
No.
You know?
No.
So, just a reminder, this is the very beginning of my journey.
Yeah.
And I feel like it is. I feel like it's it feels like a new life. Like I feel like I'm feeling life.
Like you look like a different human. Like literally like the heaviness of life, like you look differently, you know?
I feel it.
Yeah.
I fucking feel it.
Follow your heart, people.
Open your heart.
Open your heart.
Yeah. That's what I'm realizing. The more I open it and the more I feel, and it's not easy.
Yeah.
I think I shared last night in Circle, just listening to every man share, I was feeling really emotional.
Yep.
Because I feel like my heart is so open that I'm finally feeling it all, you know?
Yep.
The joy, the sadness. You know, there might just be one little piece of what one man shared, and it was just like really hit home.
Got me.
And then it's showing up in really weird ways. Again, I shared last night listening to a bloody Guns N' Roses song, which is just the most ridiculous song in the world, and I felt like I wanted to cry. But I think it was tapping me back into a time when I was a kid, and I was so into music. It was in me, you know? And it was my dream. It was my dream.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I squashed it.
Yeah. And I think we've spoken about that, that spectrum from victim to creator. And I feel like this is the expression of that. Like there's been
that victim was, I would put that down. The first shift in all of this was that realization, and I think I expressed this to you at some point, that it was like this, it was almost like an out of body experience. I was looking at myself going, holy fuck, you victim.
Yeah.
You know, I've been the victim for my whole life, and I don't have to be. I have a fucking choice. You know?
It's fucking hard to tell someone that they're in their victim.
Yeah. And it sickened me. Like, physically felt ill. And it still does when I think about it, or when I still see it show up. I still see it show up, and I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm in a victim. And sometimes I need someone to call it, you know?
Yeah.
And that's happened where I've had somebody who I love and trust actually voice that to me and say, Cam, you're in your victim again. And I'm like, holy fuck. And then at that point, I can go, all right, I see it. Now I can make a choice.
Yeah.
Which way I'm going to go? Am I going to let the fear keep fucking driving me forward? Or am I going to go, fuck that. What's my heart say?
Yeah. And I think if you haven't been exposed to that language before of victim, I think to define it really easily is like, the world is happening to me, you know, and I'm the victim.
Yep.
As opposed to the world is happening for me, and I'm the creator.
Why me?
And I'm the creator.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it feels like there's been a real strong transition from like, even from a work point of view of like, oh, I'm the victim, I'm stuck in this thing and I can't get out, and to be like, oh no, I actually have a choice, and I'm going to create a life. And that's why recording this right now is really beautiful, because it's not the finished product. It's the start. And that's why I think it's like a really exciting time, because it's like, let's see what Cam the creator comes up with.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
I feel like that's a pretty good segue into some type of musical expression.
Oh, yeah?
And it definitely won't be from me.
Well, maybe not. We can get you on the drum.
Yeah, we've just ticked over an hour. It goes so quick, doesn't it?
Yeah. So I should pick the guitar up then.
Yeah, well, you do that. I'll set the mic up, and then after you finish, we'll jump back on.
Right. I started. Messy life.
Beautiful, bro. So good. And especially if from someone who doesn't have experience in music, like just to watch, I'm taking some video, I'll post it up on Instagram, to see your fingers dance over that guitar, it's just like, fuck. It's like, how does that happen?
Yeah.
What's it feel like to play?
There was definitely some bum notes, and the inner critic was was playing out, which is always a challenge to try and bring myself back to centre. Not always, but
it's a process, yeah.
Yeah, it's just like life, right? It's just continually doing the work.
Yeah.
But I just love it. I just fucking love it.
Yeah.
And that's what makes me do what I can do. Because, and this goes back to what I'm trying to instill in this idea of lessons or expression sessions or whatever it might turn out to be with other people. It's not about practice, it's about play.
Yep.
You know? How can we find ways to tap into the joy of playing and the essence of it, as opposed to this, I have to learn the
structure,
chords.
discipline.
I have to learn. Yeah. I have to sit down for 2 hours a day and play my scales and play my chords. And
it's a should, isn't it? I should do that.
Yeah. What's driving that?
Yeah.
You know, I've never done that. And I've actively voiced this to my students, saying a good example is I've been teaching a student scales and learning to play in time, and you know the standard way of doing it, and this works for some people and that's fine.
Yeah.
But the standard way of doing that is putting a click track on and just running through your scales for 5 or 10 minutes.
I'm saying yes, but I don't really know what a click track is.
But I never fucking did that. I would just put on music and figure out what key it's in, and I'd just jam to it.
Yeah.
And that's how I would learn my scales.
Yep.
By playing and learning to express my voice through the guitar. And so that's what I suggested to him. I said, put on a jam track, blues, whatever your vibe is.
Yep.
Preferably slow because he's still learning his scales.
Yep.
Spend first 3 minutes just going up and down the scales just to get the fingering. And then just allow yourself to play. And lose yourself in the experience.
Yeah.
You know? And for me, there's so much more gold in that. And it's gonna make you play more.
Yeah.
It's gonna make you practice more in inverted
Because it's
commas.
play.
Yeah.
And I think,
because you enjoy it.
yeah, and I think that wakes up an old part of us. It's like, oh, I used to play,
Mm.
but now life's got serious and I don't.
Yeah.
So I think it's like,
Because I have to achieve and I have to
Yeah.
do this and I have to do that.
you should yourself out of it.
Yeah. 100%.
I should be doing this, I should be doing that. What if I just play?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, watching my daughter on the jungle gym yesterday at home,
Yep.
I had to just stop and take stock of how totally in it she was. She was completely lost in her own little world,
Yep.
playing, and and she's doing all this exercise. You know,
Yeah.
she's so strong. She's doing all these crazy moves on the monkey bars and shit like that.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, wow, she's so strong, and her balance and coordination and all that kind of stuff. But she's not thinking about that. She's not going to the gym and
Yeah.
doing reps every fucking day.
Yep.
She's just playing.
Yep. It's not a discipline.
Yeah.
It's enjoyment.
And that might not resonate for everyone, you know. Some people like that structure and they like to achieve and...
Yeah. I think it has its place. But I think when it becomes the majority, it's challenging.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can hear that. The dog for these podcasts, I give the dog a bone and put him outside,
Bones finished.
and the bone is finished, and he's like, I want to be in there now.
Yeah.
But what he does, because there's so many cords around when I have the podcast gear out, he has a tendency to like drag my computer onto the ground, and and then if someone comes through the front door, he'll bark. So it's just like, so yeah, any kind of muffled dog sound is not us. It's,
when are you going to have Rocky on the podcast?
oh my God.
How are you, Rocky? Oof.
So I normally finish up the podcast with asking someone what they're excited about. So let's go down that path, because I kind of have a rough idea of the answer.
I feel like it's pretty evident after my last rant.
Yeah.
I'm just so fucking jammed on more music in my life.
Yep.
And allowing myself the freedom to do that.
Mm.
And that it currently looks a number of different ways, but I'm also aware that it's going to evolve and shift into whatever, so I'm so open to whatever that is, you know. I'm really looking forward to collaborating with more people. I'm really looking forward to performing more and building that muscle.
Yep.
And recording, creating, sharing. And I'm really looking forward to pushing this idea of guiding or helping people to experience what I experience through music.
Yeah. And there's the alignment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, it's fucking awesome. So stoked for you.
Thanks, man.
Well done. It's super inspiring, and yeah, I look forward in a couple of months. I'll have it back on, and dig into next year and
I'll finish that song.
But yeah, jump on. I'll put the link to Cam's Instagram, or any other links that you've got floating around. I'll stick them on the in the show notes, and jump on and follow for the ride, because it'll be a good ride.
Thanks, man. It's been fun.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Thanks, bro.
Thank you.